Hey, Mrparka here to review a new one from Mondo Macabro. This will be released, I believe, February 16th on Blu-ray. It is A Lizard in a Woman's Skin. This is a Lucio Fulci classic, released in 1971. This was made before Fulci would go on to do infamous gore fests like Zombie and The Beyond and City of Living Dead, which is what most people know him from. But Fulci was dabbling in all sorts of genres before that: westerns, comedies, even musicals. And A Lizard in a Woman's Skin was one of his first kind of brutal films. Definitely a giallo thriller type. Not even his first giallo thriller type, but one of his most memorable for sure. Essentially what we have here is Florinda Bolkan from Flava the Heretic and Don't Torture a Duckling, another Fulci giallo, stars in this, and she's a Carol, and she's having these weird, surreal kind of dreams, and they're definitely sexual, repressed lesbian urges. She's kind of from a very, political family, a well-off family that's kind of, I guess, aristocrat type deal, and next door is kind of these hippie sex orgy type deals, and it's kind of these two ideologies, these two worlds colliding and merging into one, and she has these like hidden desires. Essentially what happens is she has a really explicit dream where the neighbor, who's played by Anita from Your Vice is a Locked Room and I Only Have the Key, is murdered, and it ends up being a reality. Enter Stanley Baker, who's from Zulu, who plays a police inspector to try to figure everything out. And at first it feels fairly obvious what's going on, but it's of course muddled a little bit, and the vision's blurred, and clues and hints are added in, and these wide variety of strange characters, and essentially you really don't know what's going on, really. No, I think it does this fairly well. There's a couple moments where the script is kind of forceful and almost a little sloppy, but for the most part it's well done, and the pacing's great as well. But really the star of this film, besides the actual stars who all do very well, is the camera work. I think the camera work is great. There's lots of POV shots, probably split screens, probably inspired by Alfred Hitchcock, and there's really good wide shots with nice scope and beautiful locations. This movie was filmed in the UK, the exteriors, and it sees the interiors were repickups in Italy. It's an international cast. A lot of these movies like this have lots of different foreign monies and foreign investors and things like that. You learn all this stuff about the movie in the magnificent special features. They poured over a documentary that was made in 2003 from Shriek Show, which is a really nice interview with a lot of the cast and crew, and the guy who does it is very knowledgeable, seems to know almost everything about the bit players, locations, and like I said in a written review, you could really fill a whole college course with the information these guys have about a lizard in a woman's skin, which is just miraculous and beautiful to know that somebody cares about this film that much. It is my first experience with this, and Fulci is the director. I've seen actually his most films, although the man's probably directed over 50 films, so that's I've probably seen him close to 20, and this is one of his better films for sure. I am a big fan, I must say. The commentary is also very informative. Like I said, talks about all the bit players, who they are, what they went on to do later. There's also a great piece by Stephen Thrower, who did a USA Nightmare. I'm not sure, but there'll be a thing up here. He did a book that is very popular, and he contributes to a lot of the Arrow releases, and if you do a Euro horror film and he doesn't have a word to say about it and your release, then it's just not a complete release, I guess, because this Stephen Thrower seems to know everything, and he dissects the films very well, and does a really magnificent job. He's always informative. Besides that, there's an interview with one of the bit actors. Like I said, this is a great looking movie as well, and it looks good on Blu-ray. The film is shot well, and I cannot forget the special features, of course. You just take this bow and make it a beautiful present to any horror fan, or any Euro horror fan, I should say, because the Italian cinema is just for it's kind of a niche audience, but I've always been a big fan. Also, Ennio Morricone does a magnificent piece on the soundtrack, which is kind of strange because the detective is actually whistling it, so I guess that's just kind of like I guess I'll say maybe a little tiny meta. I'm not necessarily sure how to describe it. It's just a little bizarre, nice little touch. But the score is very haunting and beautiful, and Ennio Morricone is undoubtedly one of the best composers, and it adds to the film. The ending, like I said, I didn't necessarily know what exactly had happened. At first I thought I did, but as the plot unfolds, the script unfolds, it's done in a way that kind of confuses you a bit, sometimes justifiably, sometimes maybe unjustifiably. But all in all, I think it's well worth a watch. I think this feature is well worth your time, and this release in particular is the one to go for. It was released by a Shriek Show on 2 different releases. One had 2 different cuts, and this was actually released on a different cut earlier. This was kind of a limited edition, but this film had several different cuts from my understanding. This also includes the American language track and the Italian language track. The Italian language track, if you read the subtitles, kind of dives a little bit deeper into some of the characters and doesn't spell everything out for you in a more so. So it's kind of you almost want to see both to kind of get the entire plot, what's going on. But regardless, I would say that keep your eye out for this great release of Lucio Fulci classic that finally gets what it deserves. A lizard in woman's snakeskin. Oh, I always say that, lizard in a woman's skin. The title is actually kind of craftily entitled, I would say, because the way it pops in, it's a name and title. But I'm Mrparka. Thank you very much for watching, and information will be below, purchase links, things like that, and a written review. Thank you. Have a good one.
Among the annals of the abnormal, there is no more erotic a nightmare than the strange story of lizard in a woman's skin.
By the way, Frank, you're not being unfaithful to Carol, are you?
That woman for you represents degradation and vice.
Joe, please. I'm going completely mad.
Julia Durer was murdered by the person she was blackmailing. Only she wasn't blackmailing your son-in-law.
Father, there's only one thing I can tell you. I didn't kill her.
She was standing there in front of me, in her fur coat. So, she takes it off. Not a bloody stitch on.
Mrs. Hammond, remember that anything you say will be taken down and may be given in evidence.
Unbearable suspense that keeps you on the edge of an abyss of terror.